As we all know, this Akron team has won 5 of their last 7. I spent time with Terry Bowden at one time. He's been very successful wherever he's been. He's a tremendous coach. Also spent 5 years with Chuck Amato, so I know what kind of coach he is. I know they'll be well coached. I know they'll be extremely physical. Terry's done a good job of upgrading that roster there, and they'll be the most athletic team that we've played to date. Their quarterback poll is where it starts. He does a great job. They've won 5 of their last 7. Should have beaten Michigan at Michigan last year and played Penn State down to the wire. So they're an excellent football team that we're going to have to make sure we have a great week of practice and preparation this week before we head up there to Akron this week. So that's where we are.
Coach Chuck,
I'll get those just in a second there for you, okay? Get a hold of Chuck there for me, would you, on the defense, and I'm good on the offense.
Well, let's start with Cole. What do we expect out of him? What type of quarterback is he?
Yeah, he's a guy that can beat you with his feet. He can make all the throws. He's just like I say, he's a returning starter from a year ago. Got hurt a little bit a year ago, but whenever he played, they played extremely well. But he can make all the throws, and again, he can get himself out of trouble. Just a typical quarterback that we've seen. The last 3 weeks had the opportunity to beat you with their feet. He's no different.
A team that likes to throw first, run second, how much does that help in preparation this week with Cato and that offense being able to pretty much go much like what you expect to see Saturday in Akron?
Yeah, well, I think Akron's doing a lot of the same. They're doing a lot of the same things that I heard Terry talk in one of his press conferences. He talked about wanting to have the ability to throw the ball, but they're doing more run-pass options this year than what they've done, which our defense, of course, has seen against us. I think that's a question you've asked, but we've been able to stay pretty balanced. But our offense is doing a good job of taking what the defense gives them, and we've been able to mix the run and pass around pretty good. So that's helped us remain balanced a little bit there.
Is this a fun matchup for you? I mean, you've known Coach Amato for so long, you've known Bowden for so long, and is it almost going to be sort of like a cat and mouse game because you all do know each other's tendencies pretty well?
Well, Chuck's when Chuck was at NC State, he was strictly a man-free, 4-down guy, and he's changed a little bit. They're multiple defensively now, which kind of surprised me a little bit. They're a lot more 3-down. They mix some 4-down in, but they're not strictly man-free coverages where he was at Florida State all those years, and the NC State years, he's more quarters coverage and doing some things that are a little different. But the one thing I know about Chuck's defense is they'll be extremely physical. They'll play extremely hard, and they're really athletic. I mean, they've done a good job, as I mentioned before, upgrading that talent. They got a couple of D linemen that have one from Ohio State and a couple of guys that have transferred in there. So they'll be a great challenge for us, and it'll be the best defense that we've seen to date. And offensively, they're not any different.
Well, their leading linebacker is Jatavis Brown, and is that a guy you all are familiar with? That's over. He is from Glade Central. It seems like you all have known about Glade Central for years.
Yeah, he's a receiver at Belle Glade. He played wide out at Belle Glade, and he can run now. I mean, you turn the film on, he can run from sideline to sideline. He's extremely fast, and he's a really good player.
Just listening to the guys, even after the Ohio game, after such a convincing and probably satisfying one for those guys, they were already, I think Clint even said, look, we think we're going to face that team in Akron that's better than the team we faced today. And talking yesterday, they seemed they were ready to just kind of turn that page and focus on the next task. How has it been in the first couple of days after such a big win?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the thing is you got to do is you got to win or lose. You got to put that game behind you because if you don't, you're going to get beat. I look at one thing I reminded them on Sunday. I said, Virginia Tech was feeling really, really good about themselves after the Ohio State game, and they turn around. East Carolina goes there and beats them, and Southern Cal, everybody was talking about winning the national championship, and they go to BC and get beat the following week. So, if you don't put those wins behind you and move on to the next one, you'll get beat. And I've tried to, I've met with the leadership committee, and our kids need to understand that if we don't go to work today and go to work tomorrow, then we're not going to win on Saturday because we got to get better as a football team. Because Akron's sure that they're a good team.
How big would a road win at Akron be? Not just to finish non-conference 4-0, but roll into a bye week and get set for conference.
Well, all wins are big. Anytime you can go on the road and get a win, it's huge. And it's huge because it's the next game. I mean, it's game number 4, and as you mentioned, we've got a bye week, but we got to put all our focus and all our effort into this week and making sure we're prepared for that game.
Having the production you're getting out of Devontae Allen and Angelo on the outsides, how much more is that helping that offense of opening up the middle of the field to get the ball to throw and Tommy when it needs to go there?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that we didn't get the production out of the outside a year ago, and it hurt us. It's made. To be honest with you, it's kind of amazing we did it offensively. What we were able to do a year ago without that threat on the outside, and that's helped. With Tommy and not only Tommy, but our tight ends and our running game. Anytime you can. Stretch the field out there. And the one thing Ohio tried to do is they tried to still play one-on-one on the outside, and we took advantage of it. We were able to get some production out there, huge production, which was huge. So if those guys can continue to make plays outside, then we'll be fine. It'll help us overall as an offense, whether it be Tommy or the running game and the whole deal.
Do you think this is the best receiving core you've had since you've been here?
I think overall it is. I don't think there's any question that, like Angelo and Justin Hunt and Devontae, and, we got some younger guys, too, that are coming along that I think, Holliday Foster Winter did some good things, that he's going to be a good player for us. So, I like where we are now. They just got to continue to get better.
Well, this is the most complete. I mean, it seems like there have been years where, the passing game was there, but the rushing attack wasn't where it needed to be. And at times you didn't have the outside receivers, but you had the rushing attack in the middle. Is this the most complete this has been?
I think it is. I don't think there's a question. Yeah, it is. I mean, I think Devin Johnson brings a physicality to that position. We're doing so much better. Chris Barkley's done a tremendous job with our pass pro in there. Not only Devin, but also Stu and Remy are doing a better job of picking up blitzes and doing some things. They're all more complete backs than they've ever been since I've been here. And all three of them are doing a nice job with that. So I think it is our most complete, and it's going to have to be on Saturday. So.
Talking with Devin yesterday, he said that Coach Barkley calls it thunder and lightning, him and Stu in the backfield. 6 weeks ago when you made the decision to move Devin in the backfield, did you expect the production he gives you day in and day out on the field?
I thought, I knew he'd bring some stability to that position. I knew he'd bring a guy there that I totally trust. I knew he'd bring some physicality to it. And what happens is when you get, guys at that position that are kind of kid he is, it rubs off on some of those. That meeting room is a fun room to go into right now. So, he's been good for Stu, he's been good for Remy, and same thing with the wideouts. When it's amazing, you stick an Angelo Jean Louise out there and a guy that just all of a sudden starts making plays. It's contagious with those guys, and so we're better overall because we got a couple young guys. And Devin's not being a young guy, but he's a good football player it's done a nice job with those younger guys to bring them along. So there's no doubt we're better off overall at both those positions.
Back to playing on the road, think back to when you first took the job, how much better this team plays on the road. Because you had a few big wins last year, tough wins, but big wins nonetheless.
Yeah, I think a lot of that, Doug, is we're better personnel-wise too. I mean, we weren't very good at home or on the road a couple of those years, but I think it helps. But there's no doubt that I've always believed that when you go on the road, leadership is critical. When you're on the road, and I think we've got better leadership we've had this year and last year. I think that helps. I think toughness. I think when you go on the road, toughness is extremely critical, mentally and physically. The one thing I like about our football team right now is I felt like we've been physically a tough football team the last 3 weeks, and that's going to be critical this week because I know Akron will be extremely physical. So I think toughness. I think leadership. I think guys like going into the arenas and playing away. I think that helps you. So I think we're better in all those areas, but I also think we have better players, and we're a better team now than we were. We're a better overall team than we've been this year and last year than we were the previous years.
Your players are really good about saying we're taking this 1 week at a time, one game at a time. But does preparing for the next game almost get a little bit easier when you're building off of a couple wins in a row?
There's no doubt. I mean, winning. Those people say you learn from losing. I never believed that. I thought I never learned anything from losing. I mean, other than not to do it again. But I think when you win, there's no doubt you feel good about yourself. It's easier to go to work. The food tastes better. I mean, everything's a whole lot better. The attitudes are better and all that. So there's no doubt that winning helps you. There's no question.
CBS has been kind of keeping track on the tempo of the game this year, and they said that 22 teams are averaging at least 80 plays a game. You guys aren't one of them, and you guys have been one of kind of the forefront of the tempo, but it hasn't hurt your yard production. Has it been a kind of a conscious effort to kind of vary tempo for you guys this year, or is it just the big plays you don't have to run as many?
Well, I think, Saturday it was a conscious effort. I didn't want to put the defense back out there, to be honest. We were playing some younger kids, and I didn't want to put the Rouses and all those back out there. That fourth quarter, we made a conscious effort to use the clock with Gunner and those guys in there, and I think we ran 86 gradable plays, but we could have ran 100. I mean, if we had that fourth quarter not slowed it down like we did, I mean, we would have ran over 100 plays. So, we made it was just good to see that we could make a conscious effort to do that on Saturday, but we're still able to move the football, which we were. So, we're trying to have the ability to do both, but from a head coach's perspective, my job is trying to manage a game at some point where I don't want to have to put the Rouses and those guys back out there, because this Akron game, I knew at that point in the game it was over, and Akron's an important game to get ready for. So, I wanted to go in that game with a healthy Rouse and a healthy Jermaine and McKelvey's and Swag and all those guys, and so I made a concerted effort to slow the game down at that point. So, having the ability to do both, I think, helps us, and our production has been pretty good.
Last week, the players mentioned going into the game they wanted to limit the turnovers, and for the most part, they were able to do that late interception. What do you think that says about this team going out and accomplishing a goal like that?
I think that's critical. I mean, our number one deal offensively is take care of the football, and I thought we did that. And to be honest with you, the interception was on us. It was coaches, not the players. That was on us. We didn't do a good job. And but that being said, I thought our guys they worked extremely hard on it that week, and did a good job taking care of the ball.
How was coaching with Coach Amato? I mean, you guys found yourself there's a lot of success that went on in Raleigh when you two were together.
Yeah, I'd known Chuck forever. I mean, we recruited against each other for 20 plus years down in South Florida. He was always recruited South Florida, and I did too. And so we knew each other and had a lot of battles. And when Chuck offered, he ended up hiring me when he took that NC State job. But I enjoyed working for Chuck. He's a tremendous coach and great recruiter. I mean, and we had some really good players at NC State. Now we had Phillip Rivers and had first round draft pick in the draft, Mario Williams and Manny Lawson. We had some really good players over that 5-year stint and won a bunch of games. So anytime you're winning and going to bowls and having success, it's good to be in this business, and that was a good 5 years.
What do you remember about playing at WV with Terry? Good old days.
Terry talks about the fishing and all that. I never lost to Terry, I don't think, in anything. I mean, fishing or whatever it was. I'm teasing you. Terry was
He said the same thing.
Terry, yeah, I'm sure he would have. But Terry was always a guy that, similar to what I was. I'm sure he was a guy that was very overachiever. Neither one of us were very athletic, and had to work for whatever we got. I mean, that's just the way it was. And he was no different. But he worked extremely hard to play there, as I did, and went on and had great success wherever he's been. And he's a really good football coach that has done a tremendous job at all his stops.
Do you think you'll get AJ back this week?
I think so. Yeah.
What about Sweet?
AJ probably could. I don't want to get into injuries, but I don't see anybody right now at this point that won't play. AJ probably could have played last week, but once we got into that point where we felt the game was under control, we just felt, hey, let's get him another couple days, and so he's ready this week. He'll be fine this week.
On the flip side of that, how do you think Mendelson did going in there?
Tremendous. I mean, he's really a player, and him and Addison both have played really well. And that offensive line position, I know I keep going on about Alec, what a tremendous job he does, and it's such a developmental position. And I know, 5 years ago, I never thought Mendelson would have ever played, and what he's doing is just a tremendous tribute to him. But it shows you that hard work pays off, and especially at that position, you can develop and become a player there. And we hadn't missed a beat with him in there. And the great thing about him is he can help us, at tackle guard. He can pop in a lot of places. So once we get Swede back 100% and Addison's playing well, that's going to help us down the road with depth.
Never coached a game at Akron in either the new place or the old place.
I never. I don't think I've ever played Akron. I don't think.
You probably remember the Rubber Bowl. We do.
I don't think I never was at the Rose Bowl.
You're fortunate.
That's fortunate. I hear now, though, that this new stadium they have is tremendous. They're great facilities, and that's what people don't realize is, and thank goodness we've got great facilities here now. But you go around some of these conferences and some of these leagues, I mean, the facilities they have are unbelievable. And I heard Akron's facilities are second to none. So it's going to be it's a great place to play, and I'm sure it'll be a great environment.
When you're at a place like that, like Akron, I think Terry said something like 28 years of football, 21 losing. And how much do building those types of facilities, how much does that leap you forward, especially in a spot like that?
Well, I've always said it, kids buy with their eyes, and the one thing I know about Ohio, there's a lot of football players in Ohio now. And, so Terry will do a good job of, if you go out, I truly believe if you got a staff that works extremely hard at recruiting and you work at it, that there's 18 to 20 players every year that you can recruit to your program to help you go win a conference championship, whatever conference you happen to be in. And, Terry will do that. And, like I say, there's so many players within a 6-hour radius of where he is that there's no question that that he'll have players in there, and he already does.
Some of the defensive standouts on that team.
You mentioned the one linebacker, number 1. He runs from sideline to sideline. Number 11, that defensive end in there is a tremendous player up front. Their best defensive player up front. They got a lot of athletic guys. Pittman from Ohio State is a good inside guy. So they've got, like I say, when we see them play on Saturday, they'll be by far the most athletic team that we've played to date, and it'll be a great challenge for us.
What does that say about a guy whenever he can be a high school wide receiver at a really good high school in Glade Central, and he can make that transition to a linebacker position?
Just number one, those Belglade kids are tough. I mean, they come out, they're extremely tough. And I was asking Devontae about him, and as he was, of course, went to school with him, and he's just a great kid that works hard. It's tough, and I tell you, he can flat fly now. He can run from sideline to sideline. He's as fast a linebacker as I've seen. So he's a really good player.
I wanted to win this last non-conference game and have a good start going into conference play.
Well, it's all, like I say, it's huge because it's the next one, and we'll worry about conference when we get to conference, but we got Akron right now, and we got to put all our focus and efforts and energy this week into that game, because if we don't, we'll get beat.
Defense has only allowed 3 total points in the first half. How important do you think it is for them to kind of set the tone, even though the offense has played very well in the first?
I've said all along, I mean, to win championships, you have to play great defense. And, our defense has played well. I don't think they've allowed, you mentioned they hadn't allowed a touchdown in the first half this year. And it'll be a great challenge for them on Saturday. And, Chuck and that defensive staff have done a tremendous job, and our players are working extremely hard. So if we can keep that up and continue to play great defense, we'll have a chance. But that's where it starts. Like I mentioned, not this past year, the most helpless I've ever felt as a football coach was 2 years ago when you had to outscore people. I mean, that was awful. And I never want to feel that again. And thank goodness I'm not feeling that right now. So, I feel like, and that's why we're able to change pace and do a few things with our offense, because 2 years ago, hell, we had to outscore. That's awful. And I don't want to ever be put in that position again, because that's not a good feeling. So I like what I see, and it's a heck of a lot more fun standing on the sideline watching those guys play now the last 2 years than it was that 3 years ago. So let's try to keep that going.
You feel like because the offense has done so much, that those guys are sort of flying under the radar a little bit for the productivity they're putting up?
Well, I think that the one thing I did, Grant, I challenged our team, last week to be the best team out there on Saturday against that team. We hadn't been the best team the last couple of years against Ohio U. We had spots, but we weren't the best team they were. And, I challenged our team to be the best team in all 3 phases, and I think we were. And this game will be no different. We got to go play defense and offense, and we got to be, we got to go out and try to find a way to win the special team battle. So if we can continue to be the best team on the field, then we'll have a chance. And that's our goal every week, is to try to continue to grow as a team and be a good team. Because if we are, we're pretty good. We're pretty good. Captains this week are Jaspers and Cato on offense, and Tyndall and Hewitt on defense. So all those guys played extremely well, and looking forward to their leadership this week. Thanks.
Talk about the effort you did get from Hewitt. That was kind of the first game he stood out this year.
Yeah, no, he's played. Doug, he's played really well. Ohio U was a little different with the way they blocked us, and they never came off onto our second level backers. They were so concerned with the Rouses and our down guys that they never, in their zone schemes and everything they did, they never got off to the second level, and those linebackers were able to run around and make a lot of plays. And Neville's been a tremendous player, and he's got, Chuck calls him the best player that nobody knows about, and that's kind of the way, you don't notice him, but he's always making plays, and he's a really good football player, and he's a great, I don't know if you get a chance to talk to that kid. He's unbelievable. And you talk about a lot of stories that some of our kids have. He's got an unbelievable story, and the kind of kid he is. He's a great kid, unbelievable kid. Okay, thanks guys.